Welcome, friends. I'm Melissa Van Dam, a Christian artist in Ontario, Canada. In today's video, I'm taking you through the full process of this piece. So grab a coffee, settle in, and let's paint together. This is day 98 of 100 days of painting. Every year, the tiny but stunning endangered monarch butterfly travels thousands of miles from Mexico, where it spends the winter, to my backyard. For the last few years, our family has been collecting and raising monarchs. They do have predators in the wild, and it helps to give them a safe place to grow and turn into a chrysalis. The process is incredible to be a part of, the miracle of God's creation, that this tiny, delicate insect will travel incredible distances to gather with all the other monarchs in one tiny little area of Mexico, live longer than any other generation of monarchs to travel back to the same area it came from, mate, lay eggs, and then 3 or 4 generations later, its great-great-grandchildren will travel all the way back to the exact same little area in Mexico. It boggles my mind and the mind of science how generations later they can find the place that they need to be. If our Creator cares so much as to design this beautiful and perplexing little wonder, how much more does He care for you and me? The prompt, the one-word prompt for today, was flutter. As you can see, I'm feeling in orange in the wings. I've done a pencil drawing from an excellent reference photo. Reference photos are incredibly important in any drawing, unless you're drawing purely from your imagination, but even then you probably have a lot of images stored in your mind as reference photos that you're working from, or you might compile several reference photos together to create the image that you're imagining and trying to recreate in a painting. So the wings on the underside versus the wings on the top, the orange color is different, and you can see I'm layering them and switching back and forth from the flowers to the butterfly to give it a chance to dry. Sometimes I will use a hairdryer, but if it's a little area, I might just let it dry on its own. These paintings are pretty small, about 4 by 5 inches, all of them, all 100, and normally I use a little bit bigger brush, but just for these finer details, I've switched to a smaller one than I might usually paint with. I'm just filling in the black around the orange. It's almost like a negative space painting in a way, and I will do a couple layers of black before I get it as deep as I would like. Watercolor always dries about 30% lighter than what it shows when it's wet, so you have to keep that in mind, and sometimes it takes a few layers to get the intensity of color that you would like to have. Sometimes you'll see me with my paintbrush just going over to the paper towel and checking to see how much water and or paint is in my paintbrush. The amount of water in your paintbrush versus the amount of water in your paint versus the amount of water on your paper is all going to give you different results and may or may not give you the results that you want. So you need to keep checking that and keeping an eye on that. That just takes time and practice and experience, knowing how much is in there and what that feels like and what it looks like, and what the paint looks like in your palette versus what the paint looks like on your paper versus what it looks like when it's dried. So here you can see just going in with the second layer of black on the bottom under wing, and I will keep going with that. This is interesting, the 2 little dots on the front wing at the very top, they look orange or yellow, but when I mix them, they're actually kind of a green color, which was interesting. I was looking at the photo, I was like, yeah, they're not really orange. It's an interesting color there that we have. So just going back in and filling in the blacks again because they've dried a little bit lighter, as I would expect them to do. Filling in a little bit more of the detail in the crinkle of the wing with another layer of pale orange. One thing you can do, if I do have several different oranges in this palette, but if I want to tone down the orange and make it a little duller for a shadow color, what I would do is add blue to that orange, which might seem strange, but it is the opposite on the color wheel, and that will tone down the color that you're working with. So if you think about the color wheel and the complementary color, you put those 2 colors together, you'll get brown eventually if you put them in the right combination, but if you just add a little bit of the opposite one, it will tone down the color and make it a little bit more muted, like it would be in shadow, versus adding black or gray to that color. This is actually one of the few times when I used straight black in a painting. I don't often do that. It's kind of can leave a painting lifeless looking, but on a Monarch butterfly there are definitely black areas, but if you can see close enough, you'll see that there are varying degrees of black in the areas. It's not all just straight one color black, it's gray and black. So I just did a little bit more on the flower and going back in and touching up a little bit of the black again. A little minute ago you'll see I had checked my tape. That's because I'm going to be flooding the entire area with water. I'm going to do the background wet on wet. So here I'm wetting the entire background of the painting, and now I'm coming in with paint, and this will happen over a couple of layers. It's not going to get as intense as I want it the first time, so I'm going through, I'm adding the lighter green. In watercolor we work from light to dark, as opposed to with acrylic or oils generally you work from dark to light. While it's still wet, I'm going in and adding some darker greens. I'm not going to make it all evenly dark, but I'm adding a little bit more green, and then I will add some darker greens to the bottom section to give it some weight and imply some of the foliage that is beyond. I wanted to add a little bit of yellow into the quote-unquote sky area of the painting, just to imply some sunshine, and here I'm adding a darker green, which, if my memory serves, I probably mixed from adding a magenta to the green that I had, which will give me a darker green. And here I'm removing the masking fluid. So that masking fluid is what is protecting all of the white on the little dots on my butterfly's wings. And then here, some of them are in shadow, so I'm going in and adding that shadow color into the white areas. I did not use masking fluid for the white around the edges of the wing. That was produced by just avoiding those areas with the water when I created the wet on wet background. So I'm just going through and tidying up some of the little details. When you pull off the masking fluid, it's not always 100% accurate, so you put it on and then you pull it off and you see what you've got, and sometimes you have to adjust it a little bit. Going in, mixing up some more green. Now that I've gone in and done my butterfly, this time I'm going in and doing a kind of a glaze or a wash over the whole thing. So I'm doing it quickly, wet on dry, with a mop brush. Because that brush can hold a lot of water, I can go in, as long as I do it quickly, I can go in and do it without pre-wetting the background. If I was going to take my time, or if I needed more time, I would have had to wet it first. I'm just going in and adding a few little finishing touches and tidying up around the flowers and building up a few more layers on that wing. Now this is sped up 8 times, so this took me a fair bit longer than what you see here, but we're getting close to the end. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully you like the painting. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Let me know what you think of this process video. If you'd like to see more from my 100 days of painting, then please like, comment, share, and follow. Prints of various sizes can be found in my online store, as well as other products made from this painting. The link will be in the description below. Thank you for joining me in this painting, and I hope you have a wonderful day.